Thank you for joining me in this session. I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes to talk about the what, how, and why of a data-driven CSM team. I'm going to share some of my experience going through this process in Optimove. So just a couple of words about us, about Optimove. Optimove is a customer data platform, and basically we combine engagement with data insights and empowering marketers to deliver highly effective personalized campaign through across channels. We have a team of 15 CSMs across 3 offices in London, New York, and Tel Aviv. All right. So I'm not here to talk about Optimove. I'm here to talk about data. Okay. Now, in today's world where everybody talks about data and every company is collecting enormous amount of data, the challenge becomes how to turn this data, this information that we're collecting, into action, okay? Companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, they're all running on data. This is the core of their existence. So it's clear that in today's world, being a modern company, data-driven approach is basically a must, okay? Now, in a Harvard Business Review study that was released last year, 99% of the respondents reported that their companies are moving in a data-driven direction, but only 1/3 believe that they have succeeded in doing so. Okay, so again, from this study, we see that taking data and use it to make a decision that are based on data is very critical in today's world, but a lot of companies are struggling in doing so. So I want to ask you, if you don't mind, to raise your hand, if you think that your customer success teams have become data-driven. How many of you are using Gainsight or Tatango or other customer success products? All right, good. So I see that some of you already made this progress of becoming data-driven, but a lot of you have yet to start, okay? And I'll tell you a little bit from my experience. So I've been working in Optimove for 10 years. I started as an analyst. And our company is all about taking customer data and turns it into insights. But I'm not, and if the one thing I have to say about Optimove is that Optimove is a data-driven company. However, I can't say this about our customer success team. It's not always been the case. It's a work in progress. All right, so all of you are familiar. Now, I just want to talk about this triangle that most of you are probably familiar with, customer success models. And I want to talk about where data fits in each one of those models. All right? So we have tech touch, we have low and mid touch, and high touch. Now, if we talk about tech touch, so this customer success model is built on data and process. Customer success does not exist without data in this model. Obviously, a $20 a month product does not justify a CSM, but there's a lot we can do by leveraging data for retention activities, right? So this is where data fits in this model. If we talk about low and mid-touch customer success model, so it can range anywhere between a monthly meeting with a client to once a year meeting before renewal. Now, obviously, process is very important, and data also very important in this kind of a structure. And there is some personal touch. Now, data, again, can be leveraged for all kinds of retention activity that are automated, and also to support and back up the personal interactions when they occur, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later on. High-touch model is heavily rely on the personal touch, all right? And obviously some process. Let's take an extreme example of a company that has one large enterprise client, okay? The team that is working on this client, they eat, breathe, and sleep this client. They know everything there is to know about the client. Do they need data? But as a company grows and the customer database grows, the company need to be able to have clarity and visibility into data in order to make decisions that are based on data, decisions that are smarter, and basically we're going to talk about all the benefits that can come with this, but to start moving into a direction where their decisions and their discussions are based on facts. Okay, so the entire discussion that we're going to have today is mostly around mid and high touch. All right, so I want to start with a why. Why? What effect will a data-driven CSM have on the business? And I think it's important to start with increased efficiency. I really, really believe that if a CSM has visibility, has easy access to data about their or his or her clients, they can be much more efficient and knowledgeable. It will allow them to become proactive much more than reactive, and many other things will follow, things like product adoption and other benefits, as we'll see. Scale is an aspect that is really significant to me, and when you build processes that are built on data, when your team is focused on data, everyone, the entire operation can be much more effective. Think about preparing a QBR to a client when you have all the data already collected, okay? It's becoming much, much easier process and faster and scalable. Product adoption, obviously a lot of companies are collecting data about product usability, and by being able to access this data and organize it in a way that a CSM can get insights very quickly and easily, talk to the client about this, communicate it to the client, identify the places where you can push the client to use more and more features and capability. It will tremendously increase the usability and contribute to it. Okay? Sorry, the presentation is a bit messed up. Expand, upsell and expansion, that will follow. Okay? If customer success has, again, access to data and they know where is the value that the customer is getting coming from or not coming from, they know what kind of additional products or what kind of services they can offer them in order to leverage what they're doing with the company. All right, so we want to build a data-driven CSM team, and there are two aspects that this consists of: hiring data-driven people and empowering the team to leverage data. Now, don't get me wrong. When I'm talking about hiring data-driven people, I don't talk about hiring analysts. Believe me, we tried it before. It didn't work. Those people were spending too much time in the data warehouse instead of spending this time with the clients, all right? But we're really great believers in hiring people that have good ability to look at data, to understand data, to interpret data, and feel comfortable with it. Part of our CSM candidate test, this is part of the test. We're showing them charts and we're asking all kind of questions about this. And the purpose of this is to make sure that we're hiring people that has the necessary brain power and the necessary approach towards data. All right? Back. All right. So it's not enough just to hire people that are data-driven. You need to empower these people and to help them use data in the day-to-day. So you hire data-driven people, but now you need to allow them to have easy access to data. They shouldn't struggle to get to it, and they shouldn't waste too much time. Okay? If you got this, then you can turn your entire department into data-driven. And let's talk about empower your team to leverage data. Okay? So the first thing is to make your data accessible and in one place. Easier said than done. We have a lot of data sources that are in different places, different data warehouses, different products, and we want to take this entire information and put it together in one place. That means investing in data warehouse. Today, there are many out-of-the-box tools that can do that for you. Now, once you have a data warehouse that includes all the information, we're going to talk about later on what is the information that we need, but once you have that in one place, you're a king or a queen. Now you can take any reporting tool on top of this and build any report that you will desire. You can use Tableau, Power BI, we use Power BI, okay? But I was always a great believer that if you can build something for the CSM to get an understanding of the customer health in depth, in a glance, this is what you need to get. This is what's going to get you to become data-driven, and you'll gain all the benefits that we've seen when we talked about the why. Start with building the single customer view. So let me show you what single customer view is. לקרב אותו? Okay. The single customer view is basically a flat aggregated table that includes all the customer information. So you see here an example of 2 clients, and I have a lot of information. It's just a small sample of it. All right, so you have the customer name, at the effective date, longevity, next exit point, value segment, customer score, everything. It can get to hundreds of attributes, whatever information you have about the client. By the way, this is something we use also in our product. This data structure is very intuitive, and the value that you can get from it is immediate. Just by taking this structure into Excel even and work with filters, the management team can get enormous amounts of information and insights from the data. But for the CSM team, when they take a single row that tells us everything we want to know about the client, everything there is to know about the client, there's a great value in it. All right. Third point, create common definition across teams. There are different ways that you can measure customer score, active users, but the thing is that you must be aligned across team with a definition. Otherwise, you'll spend time and energies on arguing what is the right definition and create silos, all right? So it's really important that all the teams and the entire company will be aligned around the definitions of each one of the metrics that you will define for yourself. Focus meetings around data. Great, you have excellent dashboard, but how are you turning everybody to use it? How are you turning your team to really become data-driven in their day-to-day? And one way to do this is focus meetings around data. Team leader meetings with CSMs, where when they discuss customers, bring up the report that shows you all the customer information. This way, the discussion is not about emotions or gut feelings, it's about facts. Also, management meetings where discuss specific clients, it's very easy to get the report up and have an understanding of everything that happens with a client. Build work routines around data. For me, the most important routine would be that every CSM, before they go into a meeting with a client, they open the report and they have, in a glance, an insight to everything that is going on with the client, what's the status of this client, and they're aligned with the situation. And in a minute, we're going to talk about the value that this is going to give. Teach and evangelize data competency. Invest in training. It's a process, okay? It's not going to happen in a day. It's not going to be very easy to take a team that is not data-driven and turn them into this. They need training. They need to be able to use it in their day-to-day. They need to be able to have quick access. But at the end of the day, if you're going to walk them through this, you're going to hold their hands, and you're going to show them how to use it, they will understand the benefits and what data can do in your day-to-day work. Now, using data, it's not just about empowering your CSMs to become better and get all the value that the company can gain out of it. The customers can get a lot of value from us as CSMs using data, and let's understand why. Data makes your dialogue more intelligent and informed. When a CSM comes to a meeting with a client, when they know exactly what is the situation, what is the status of the client, what are they using, what they're not using, all the discussion is becoming much more intelligent and focused to their needs and to how they can help them. And as a result, the CSM recommendation becomes more relevant and focused, okay? They will focus the meeting on things that they've identified in the data and they can leverage in order to help the customer to do better with the product, to gain more value from the product. And the last thing is usability data can be linked to added value from the product and finding solutions for specific needs. Again, specific needs. If you're focused on what the client status is and what they're doing or not doing, you're going to meet their specific needs at this point in time. All right, so now we have all the data in place, we understand what's the value of it, and now we want to come up with some kind of a dashboard for the CSM team. If you want them to be on board, have them as part of the discussion. Work with your team to define the metrics that matter to them. It'll be much easier to have them a part of the solution if they're part of the process of defining it. Choose the metrics that are strongly correlate with retention. There are a lot of metrics you can put in a dashboard. Sometimes it's like, analysis paralysis. It can be tons of data. What can I do with this? But if the core, the main metrics in the dashboard will be around metrics or any kind of information that strongly correlate with retention, and you know what correlates with retention to your product, this will help put the focus on retention and will improve retention at the end of the day. From time to time, reevaluate your report and the team's use of it, okay? You need to understand if the team are using it, and if not, what's holding them back, all right? And always good to do new iterations and release new versions of the reports that you're working with in order to be as optimized as they can to the team's need. All right, so just to share some of my experience of what I've been using for as data attributes in our CSM reports. So I divided it into some categories, and starting with the CRM data. So this would be like general information about the client, like different contract details, the effective date, next exit point, product components, MRR, lifecycle stage, and any information that you store in your CRM. Usability data. So for every product, it's really crucial to see what are the most popular pages that they're using, how often they log in, click, visit, different page, different features. But the most important thing, as I like to call it, pillar stones. So we've defined what are the several pillar stones in our product that are highly correlate with stickiness, value, and eventually retention. So we know if the customer is using those pillar stones, then they're getting value from our product. This is value that they can't get anywhere else, all right? So this is a game changer. Try to identify those pillar stones in your product and push the customers into using them. And if they don't use them, you need to understand why, okay? Engagement data, NPS, support tickets. Super important that the CSM will have clear visibility to what are the open support tickets when they look at the general status of the client. What are the outstanding support tickets? Meetings, calls, and emails. Unfortunately, we don't have access to this data at the moment. We don't store it properly, but I'm planning to at some point. But it's really valuable for the CSM or for management, for mid management, high management, to understand when was the last meeting? What were the key takeaway from this meeting? Okay, so this is definitely data that if you guys have, it's worth including in some of the reports. And other indications could be customer score. I'm not going to elaborate on this, but definitely useful. Red flag signals. We're going to talk about signals in a minute. And billing information. CSM should know if there are billing issues with the client, if they're not paying. Even though it's being handled by finance, it's important that the CSM will have clarity to this. And the last thing, that this is something that we're currently implementing, is manually fed CSM input. Data can't tell us everything. There are things that only the CSM know from talking to the client. This is what we have. This is why we have engagement with the client. Things like champion movement, organizational restructure. Those are things that the data cannot tell us. Right? Now, super important for management to know those things. Specifically for us, we learned over the years that champion movement was one of the key problems we had that led to churn. All right? We were too much relying on champions that we had within the company, right? So super important to have this visibility. You can think about many other manually fed feedback. Last thing I want to talk about is signals, all right? Now that you have the data, you have dashboard, you have everything that the data can tells you, you can turn this into red flag signals, right? And in general, every red flag signal should have an action attached to it. It's important to properly communicate it to the team so they'll know, be familiar with those signals and know how to act upon. Here are a few examples that I want to show you. Champion movement. So what do you do when you identify champion movement? Somebody that was a strong champion of the product left. So face-to-face visit and resell for segments, in our case, gold and above. So we would go to the client. We would meet the new champion. We would resell. Sometimes the salespeople will be involved as well. All right, so it's a whole new cycle. Declined usage. So in our case, the team leader will go on what we call status call and try to get an understanding of what's going on. Why do we all of a sudden see declined usage? It's time for QBR or EBR. Okay, so you can get some kind of alerts that letting you know that an EBR or QBR is coming. So the CSM should start, schedule, and plan. Multiple support tickets. If a customer is suffering from ongoing technical problem, we have something we call the emergency room. The support team should put special emphasis on this client to improve their experience. Last thing, delayed implementation. we have relatively long implementation of the product, technical implementation. If we see that this is delayed, it can be on our side, on the client side. We need to understand what the reason of it, and from time to time, we will involve the sales team that closed this deal with the implementation team to find a resolution for this. So those are just a few examples of what you can do with signals and help the team understand what they should do in each one of those cases. Somehow like a playbook, all right? That's it. I hope that I convinced you that becoming a data-driven CSM team has a lot of value to the business, to the team, to the client. All right, so thank you very much for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day.